What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. So, in today's video, we're going to be talking about um, the Kamala Harris solo interview with a local station in Pennsylvania. Everybody's been asking for her to do more interviews and whatnot, saying that she's trying to hide and all this kind of stuff. And I guess her team's been listening, and here she is. So, we're going to look at it. We're going to watch the video, break it down a little bit. I'm gonna give my opinions of how I think about it, where she could have done a little bit better, and in her delivery and in her answers, and uh, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, and before we do that though, thank you very much for watching. Consider subscribing, like, comment, share, all that good stuff. If you want to check out my other channels, I got the drummer channel, game channel, and of course there's Clear Talk and the Discord there. If you'd like to donate, you got right here. You can click or uh, snap that real quick if you want to do donate. If you want to do actual like a subscription, check out JMD Nation there. No pressure, you don't have to. Just your views and comments or feedback, whatever is good enough. But would be very much appreciated. So thank you very much. Now let's get swapped over here and get to the main event. All right, so um, I have watched it through it. We she this done at a local station. I think it's Johnstown or something like that, Pennsylvania, with Channel 6, uh, ABC News there. And the guy that does the questions, given the interview and stuff, he does a really good job. He keeps it very clean as far as his questions or whatnot. Uh, they're pretty much just softball type questions, just trying to get her to uh, be a little bit more clear and precise with letting people understand who she is and what she's about and all that good stuff, since there really is so much question out there about what she stands for on all these different things. So she has a rough start, if I'm being honest. There's a whole section right here at the beginning that I think she should have completely cut out. I think she's gotten into this habit of starting out with these stories about her childhood with her mother and all this stuff, and I think it's a way of trying to work through her nerves, and get in a groove. um but it leads to moments that has been you know critical on her previously in interviews, where she winds up just saying something that's a little obscured, or kind of weird, um, or doesn't make any sense. And she does wind up doing that here one time. And if she would have just completely cut this out, she probably could have kept this from happening. But she has one little moment uh, where it just sort of stalls, like she started a thought but didn't know where to go with it. Um, and then she just went on. Uh, and actually, where she went on, if she would have started there, um, it would have been almost a perfect answer. I mean, but as you see, we'll start to watch.
Madam Vice President, pleasure to meet you. Thanks for
Good
your
to meet
time
you,
today. Our
Brian.
audience appreciates your time as
Of
well.
course.
As you know, we're sitting here in a state and arguably in front of an audience that 54 days from now could decide the outcome of this presidential election. You hear it more than I do. People want to know more about you and about your specific plans. At the debate the other night, you talked about creating an opportunity economy. I wonder if we can drill down on that a little bit. When we talk about bringing down prices and making life more affordable for people, what are one or two specific things you have in mind for that?
Well, I'll start with this. I grew up a middle class kid. My mother raised my sister and me. She worked very hard. She was able to finally save up enough money to buy our first house when I was a teenager. I grew up in a community of hardworking people, you know, construction workers and nurses and teachers. And
If she would have stopped here, or even that little section right there was okay. It wasn't too terribly bad. But now she has her moment that I feel like is going to get talked about and, you know, made a big deal about. So let's watch.
I try to explain to some people who may not have had the same experience, you know, but a lot of people will relate to this. You know, I grew up in a neighborhood of folks who were very proud of their lawn, you know, and
Yeah, yeah, we know. I don't know where she was going with that. I don't know if she knew where she was going with that. Um, but that's the kind of stuff that is nightmarish in the way of how she has previously done in interviews. Now, you know, it's not like crazy, really. You know, it's not, you know, people eating dogs and cats and pets and stuff, but um, it is still just this awkward, like, thing where, you know, it stalls the answer, you know, because she seems like she's lost her thought, uh, and very well could have. But anyways, this is where she should have started going forward.
um, and I was raised to believe and to know that all people deserve dignity, and that we as Americans have a beautiful character. You know, we have ambitions and aspirations and dreams, but not everyone necessarily has access to the resources that can help them fuel those dreams and ambitions. So when I talk about building an opportunity economy, it is very much with the mind of investing in the ambitions and aspirations and the incredible work ethic of the American people, and creating opportunity for people, for example, to start a small business. My mother, you know, worked long hours, and our neighbor helped raise us. We used to call her, I still call her, our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small business owners. I learned who they are from my childhood, and she was a community leader. She hired locally. She mentored. Our small businesses are so much a part of the fabric of our communities, not to mention, really, I think, the backbone of America's economy. So my opportunity economy plan includes giving startups a $50,000 tax deduction to start their small business. It used to be $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000. But investing in people's innovative ideas and giving them the ability to go for it. Opportunity economy means, look, we don't have enough housing in America. We have a housing supply shortage. And what that means, in particular for so many younger Americans, the American dream is elusive. It's just actually not attainable. So part of my plan is to work with the private sector and housing developers to give them a tax credit, to be able to partner with us as the government to build, and my goal is 3 million new homes by the end of my first term. In addition, to help people who just want to get their foot in the door, literally. And so giving first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance to be able to just get in the door, and then they will do the work that they need to do to save and to pay that mortgage and to build wealth for themselves and their family. These are some examples of what I mean when I talk about an opportunity economy, and a lot of it has to do with just the community I was raised in and the people that I admired, who work hard, and deserve to have, their dreams fulfilled because they're prepared to work for it.
Okay, so that was your answer. So she states out, her which he asked for policy. Um, it's the same policy that she's already, laid out. Although, you've constantly hearing from, Trump and the right and everything that she doesn't have policy. She's laid out this economy policy weeks ago, um, and it's been repeated by her several times all throughout her rallies, in the debate. Although she did have a hard time trying to get it across in the debate because of the way she just had a hard time. But here again, she's trying to. I think she does a little bit better job of explaining it here. Although, of course, immediately the first thing that's going to be asked is, like always, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Whatever. The idea is that that's what she's going to work towards. She's giving you a policy that she believes in to help out, you know, um, help out small business owners, help out, people trying to build new housing. 3 million, new homes is what her target is. And then in building those homes, helping people get in with, $25,000 assistance in a down payment. Now that, that's been thrown out that's, nothing with the house prices and stuff right now. Uh, I mean, it, 25,000 is not a small number, especially not to somebody who doesn't have it. So, I mean, I think that rings a little bit more for regular people than some of these more, some of these wealthier to do commentators on, uh, media or whatever, mainstream media or wherever, would admit or can understand. So, um, I think especially when you don't really get much of that now. I mean, and then the 50,000 for for small business owners. That's a lot. That's a good chunk of money for helping start a small business. I mean, my girlfriend, she's her own business owner. She has her own business, and starting it up was expensive. And although like she mentioned, right now you can only it's like previously 5,000 or now five. I mean, that's pretty much I think all she really could get in helping her get started, and you know and that's outside of tax deductions and stuff like that. That's the only thing that's helped her actually really keep trying to build, getting that revenue to try to build, and get her profits and everything, So, um, the 50,000 is a lot, um, especially for somebody who is could really use that boost to get their business going. Um, so it's not a small thing. It's just pretty good. Uh, could there be more? I mean, sure, but what is Trump really offering? I mean, as much as they talk about her not having policy, he doesn't have policy either. I mean, he straight up doesn't have policy. He doesn't talk about policy. He never talks about policy. All he talks about is his grievances and, uh, you know, eating cats. I don't know. He doesn't really go over policy. He's all about vibes and throwing out the same propaganda rhetoric that he's been doing for uh, years now. You know, um, and even for those who's talking about, they may say right now that she's just talking off stuff that she's prepared. Which, yes, of course, that's what you do as a candidate on in interview. You've got prepared answers for certain questions and stuff like that. Trump does the same thing. He has a whole like a whole damn thing that he speaks and lists off every freaking time he opens his mouth. It's the same BS over and over and over again. So they're politicians. That's what they do. They remember things and they just spit out the same stuff. Um, but at least here she is trying to break it down a little bit better. I think she does a little bit better job of trying to really break it down and make it a little more understandable. as far as what she's trying to do, which and make it relate. So you know, eh, it's not bad. All right, next question.
You talked at the debate and at previous appearances about turning the page on the past. And in fact, here today in Johnstown, you're talking about a new way forward.
Yeah.
I think some people have a question, given maybe your current role as Vice President of the United States, how different you are from Joe Biden. And so I wonder if there are one or two spots, policy areas or approaches where you would say, I'm a different person.
Good question. That's what a lot of people wanted to see, is a separation, or the claim is that she's just following and giving the same stuff as Biden, although clearly even the stuff she just listed out is not policy for Biden. It's not Biden policy. And honestly, I don't think it would be. So she's already, in my opinion, in their previous question, kind of giving you examples, but she continues.
Well, I'm obviously not Joe Biden. And, I offer a new generation of leadership. And so, for example, thinking about developing and creating an opportunity economy where it's about investing in areas that really need a lot of work, and maybe focusing on, again, the aspirations and the dreams, but also just recognizing that at this moment in time, some of the stuff we could take for granted years ago, we can't take for granted anymore. For example, another plan that I have that is a new approach is to expand the child tax credit to $6,000 for young families for the first year of their child's life, because that is obviously a very critical stage of development of a child. And a lot of young parents need the help to buy a car seat or a crib or clothes for their kids. And so my approach is about new ideas, new policies that are directed at the current moment. And also, to be very honest with you, my focus is very much in what we need to do over the next 10, 20 years to catch up to the 21st century around, again, capacity, but also challenges.
Crime and public.
Okay, so a little bit better tweet answer than she's given before around this question. The child tax credit is not a bad, it's not a bad thing. The $6,000 for the first year, that's very good for, like, for new mothers, new families, with a child or whatnot, or just a newborn child. Period. It didn't even have to be a new family. Um, Helping with expenses and whatnot for that first year. That's a lot. That's a good bit of money. It helps out. Something that hasn't previously been done. And then on that also is an increase on, even after that, up to 3,500. I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Taking the tax credit up to 3,500. Now the contrast to that is that the only thing that is coming out of the Trump team, or in essence only come from JD, is about $5,000 credit. Now, from it come across to me is that he was talking about like period, like a $5,000 credit across the board. And while that, I would say, probably is more appealing, here's the difference, and here's where I break. Thinking that which one of these candidates would actually make an effort to fulfill that promise. Trump and JD with 5,000, or Kamala and Walz with the 6,000 first year, 3,500 after. For everybody else. And quite frankly, I lean more towards Kamala and Walz actually attempting at least to follow through with that. For starters, the 5,000 across the board, I don't see where that would even fly with Congress. Um, because I feel like they would just say that that's just too much. Like, that's, I mean, hell, here, even up to this point, it's been hard to even get 2,000, much less five. Even during, the pandemic, it was hard to just get 3,000. So five, that seems almost, that seems kind of out there. It's almost like a sounds too good to be true kind of number. Now 6,000 for the first year, though, that is actually accessible. Like, that's as far as like Congress is concerned, where you could actually maybe, you know, work that through people's heads in Congress to like, oh yeah, okay, we're and even more so towards Republicans, because you have the whole argument with Republicans about, with abortion, and they're wanting to support the baby, prevent these, just crazy deaths that they say are happening, abortions that are happening. And this gives them the chance to support even a newborn, giving the family more money to help. There's a way to sell this that is, is very appealing for Democrats, and can even put Republicans in a little bit of a box to have to kind of agree to it, or quite frankly, look a little hypocritical. So, I mean, I think it's an easier sell, and I think it's more likely for them to actually attempt it. That's all I'm saying. And so yeah, I think it's it's a decent question. And then she also worked on, spoke of working towards, or her view actually expanding further than, in the the next 10, 20 years or whatever. It's a good thing to hear, that you've got these thoughts of how to help continuation, for years to come. It doesn't really mean much past your potential 4 years in office, or, well, I mean, potential 8, I guess. But speaking about maybe setting up something for, that can be put in place, but then of course, then again, it would have to be something that's put in place permanently. So it's nice to hear, but it's really just platitudes to a degree. So anyway, next question.
Safety are two major issues right at the forefront of voters' minds in Philadelphia as well, where crime is a significant issue. When we talk about crime, the conversation turns to gun safety as well. And I think you actually probably caught a lot of people off guard, maybe a bit by surprise, in the debate the other night when you mentioned that you are a gun owner. I know you said it in 2019 as well. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about your values on this issue. When it comes to gun ownership, where do you draw the line in America on gun ownership and gun use?
Well, like you said, Brian, I am a gun owner, and Tim Walz, my running mate, is also a gun owner. We're not taking anybody's guns away. I support the Second Amendment, and I support reasonable gun safety laws. Part of my approach to this is I was a career prosecutor for most of my career. I have personally prosecuted homicide cases. I have personally looked at autopsies. I have personally seen what assault weapons do to the human body. And so I feel very strongly that it is consistent with the Second Amendment and your right to own a gun to also say we need an assault weapons ban. They're literally tools of war. They were literally designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly. I say we need universal background checks. The majority of NRA members support that. Why? Because it's just reasonable. You just might want to know before someone can buy a lethal weapon if they've been found by a court to be a danger to themselves or others. You just might want to know.
2 final questions.
I honestly didn't see anything wrong with that answer. Speaking about gun safety, gun ownership, why, he made the comment that it seemed to surprise some people that she mentioned in the debate that she owned a gun. I don't know why that surprises people. Well, I know why it surprises people, but it's silly that it surprises people. But it's because of the constant rhetoric and lies from Trump and the right wing media and politicians and everything else, constantly trying to frame this, narrative that Democrats just want to do nothing but take your guns. And I don't, it really doesn't hit. I mean, except for with their extreme base, them proud gun toting, American patriots with their Second Amendment. And, she states here plain and clear, I'm not taking your guns. This is not a part of our plans. We are gun owners. We respect the Second Amendment. But at the same time, out of that same respect for you having the right to have a gun, though, having reasonable, regulations around those guns, particularly assault weapons and, specifically, she wants to ban them. It's not like this is unprecedented. We've had assault rifle bans before. Clinton did one. This is not like an old thing. I mean, this is common sense. There's no reason, like she said, they were weapons that were designed in the frame mind of war, being able to shoot and kill, do massive amount of damage quickly to somebody. There's just no sense in somebody owning these weapons personally at their home. It just isn't. There's no reason for it. I'm very hard on guns. I don't own a gun personally. I have no problem with somebody owning guns, but I do have a problem with what type of guns they own. It kind of falls in line with the same argument that one could reasonably have with Israel. Yes, they have every right to defend themselves against an attack from somebody who, kills innocent people, their people. But at the same time, that, response has to be reasonable and, equivalent. And it shouldn't continue for almost a year later, killing 40 times more people and just demolishing a whole area, infrastructure and everything else, and resources for these people to even live. I mean, it's the same thing. It's reasonable. How they do things. Same thing with guns. There's no problem with people owning them. But there is a problem with what type of guns people own. You wouldn't want to have people running around with damn RPGs or anything, or tanks or anything like that. It's something that can do massive amount of damage real quickly. Same thing with assault rifles. I mean, they are meant, especially high capacity ones, they're meant to do a lot of damage really quickly. The Second Amendment was written hundreds of years ago when all they had was single shot type weapons. muskets and things like that that you had to you know load and then shoot and then load and then shoot. I mean, it was like, and it wasn't even that fast. They never could have comprehended us having the type of weapons we have today. Being able to, deliver hundreds of bullets within seconds. I mean, it's it's mind-boggling how this is so complicated for these staunch Second Amendment defenders and the right to own these type of weapons. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But she's being reasonable there. I've seen the damage that it causes. I've seen the autopsies. I've seen the bodies and what damage it can do. And so I don't feel like it is needed. Simple as that. We banned them. Because they just aren't meant for consumer end. They just aren't. I have no problem with that. I liked her answer. I thought it was reasonable and fairly well delivered. So, next question.
If I might.
Sure.
On the appeal of the man you were running against, as you drove here today, you likely saw a lot of Trump signs. He has an historic appeal in this country. And as you are someone running against him and trying to understand that, I wonder how you distill it. What do you understand his appeal to be? And how do you speak to his voters? Or maybe people who just share his values but are open to something else?
Based on experience and
Interesting question.
and a lived experience, no. In my heart, I know, in my soul, I know that the vast majority of us as Americans have so much more in common than what separates us. And I also believe that I am accurate in knowing that most Americans want a leader who brings us together as Americans and not someone who professes to be a leader who is trying to have us point our fingers at each other. I think people are exhausted with that approach, to be honest with you. I think people want a leader who has common sense and tries to find common ground. I'm supported by over 200 Republicans who worked for both Presidents Bush, John McCain, and Mitt Romney. I'm supported by the former Vice President Dick Cheney, former Congress member Liz Cheney. And I think people are more willing now, in light of the hate and division that we see coming out of Donald Trump, to say, hey, let's put country first. And I think that just makes us stronger and more healthy as a country, to say, look, we can all debate our differences around, various policies, but let's stop with the division. Like, enough of that. Let's bring everybody together.
And finally, as you introduced,
I think it was a pretty good answer. It's speaking on, Trump's way of being divisive, constantly pointing at, fingers at each other. It did seem like she, I understand why she brings up Republicans that support her. I hate that she specifically points out her recent support from Dick Cheney and his daughter. Although, Liz Cheney's she's not her dad, she's not her father, but still the connection's there. Even though after saying that, speaking of their support, it looks like she had this hard swallow. I don't know if anybody noticed that. It was it was kind of a hard. It was like this, like that was a hard pill to swallow. Even just saying that and admitting that. Although I'm pretty sure she's been told to admit that. because I'm not completely convinced that she really likes that support, or like, nobody likes Cheney. It's really a bad. I think it's a bad calculation on her campaign teams, because I'm pretty sure they are the ones that pushing her to admit that to, and I think they're doing that because they think maybe they can, that it'll help pull some Republicans. But even a good amount of Republicans hate Cheney, so I think it's just a miscalculation. But that aside, her answer is good. Talking about not having the divisive rhetoric, pointing a finger at each other, and all the different, you know, um, hateful speech and things like that. Just trying to be more, you know, uh, coming together, talking out our differences, but respectfully. I think it's a good answer. I think she's right on that. Uh, and it's more appealing, in my opinion, especially to people who are still maybe on the fence about voting for her or not. And like I've said before, I think that's the real question right now for people who are undecided. It's not necessarily undecided between her and Trump. It's just between her and just not voting at all, sitting at home, her and the couch, as I've heard it said. So I think it was, she delivers it well enough to earn some votes there. Last question.
Introduce yourself to America in a new way. They've heard much of your story at the Democratic National Convention and in that debate earlier this week. If there's one thing that you wish Americans knew about who Kamala Harris is that you don't think they know yet, what would that be?
I don't know. I mean, probably it's not very different from anybody watching right now. I love my family. One of my favorite things that I lately have not been able to do is Sunday family dinner. I love to cook. Um, I have incredible friends. My best friend from kindergarten is still my best friend. Um, I think that I mean, I have a career that really, and I said it the other day, as a career prosecutor, I never asked a victim of crime were they a Republican or a Democrat. The only thing I ever ask them is, are you okay? And I think that's the approach that most Americans want, regardless of who they voted for in the last election, in terms of turning the page and charting a new way forward. I am looking for it. Yes, I am looking forward to cooking. With the whole family gets involved, the kids each have their role. Yeah. Thank you,
Thank you so
Brian.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know
Now your
what
picture, now your
was going on.
picture of the state. Trump accused.
Stop. I don't care about Trump. No, I'm just kidding. I really don't. But no, I think overall, I mean, yeah, if she, it was, give us something we didn't know about her. The key takeaway from there, I guess, was she likes to cook on Sunday dinners or suppers or whatever. She likes to cook. Her best friend from kindergarten is still her best friend. That's a hell of a friendship if that's true. So I mean, yeah, it's sort of just a filler question at the end, just to get a little bit extra kind of inside look at her or whatever. It's fine. It's a good question. Um, Gives her a chance to answer something. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if they presented her with the questions beforehand or not. That is oftentimes you know practice. It's not a whatever. But why is this? um yeah, I don't know what happened to the audio there at the end. He basically was saying, yeah, I miss when I listened to it before, I was hearing it, but I don't know why it wasn't just coming through then. It was like a separation for some reason, left to right. He was only on one side and she was only on, I don't know, it was weird. But and he was just basically saying that he missed doing Sunday dinners too, or whatever, and they were just bantering back and forth about that, playfully or whatever. Overall, I think it was pretty good. Outside of her little glitch, I guess you could call it at the beginning there. I, you know, uh, she was clearly nervous. She was, especially at first. I think she cleaned it up and she got a stride going through the rest of the questions and answers. Um, and did a decent job of getting a little bit deeper into the answers. Not presenting anything new, which is something that I think they desperately need to work on. Presenting some new ideas, some new um, policies, to give a little bit more separation between her and Biden. I mean, clearly, what they've already presented uh, already gives a separation, or if anything, what few things are actually taken from the Biden policies, she kind of one ups them. Really, she kind of expands on them. So, while you could argue those are the same things, but they're kind of not. She is expanding on them. She's taking them a step further. That's the idea. Moving in the same direction, but taking it a step further. Uh, so, it, which you would argue to some degree would kind of be the strategy that Biden should have or would have had, I guess. Um, but there's some of those most certainly Biden wouldn't have done. So she's just making a clear distinction there. But having only economy, like that's the only thing that she's really laid out. She needs to get more stuff situated with other issues, immigration. Well, she plays abortion pretty well. I think everybody understands where she lands on that, but she seriously needs to work up a more in-depth plan for immigration and the border and stuff like that. I think if she did that and it made sense, especially knowing, where the Democratic Party really lays on immigration, it would probably be more conservative than even conservatives are willing to admit. But and certainly more conservative than I would want it to be. But I think that it would be a good idea for her to formally have some sort of immigration plan. Um, and then maybe also have some sort of formal plan for uh, issues abroad, foreign issues and stuff. I think that would benefit her tremendously. Um, anyways, uh, but here she is. She, they keep trying to argue that she's not doing interviews or she's hiding and all this kind of stuff. Well, here she is. She did, a local interview in Pennsylvania. If she's willing to do this, like I said, it went fairly well. I think she's going to wind up doing a few more. I don't know that she would do any more like mainstream media interviews, but even those local ones are actually pretty good and probably maybe even better in her wheelhouse because it's a little bit more. It feels smaller, even though surely it will get a national attention. It just feels smaller. It feels a little bit more intimate. It feels, you know, um, I hate to say less serious, but I mean to some degree it can feel that way. But anyways, so uh, she's little by little, and I felt like this was going to happen. I don't know why people were trying to pressure and like speed along things. I guess because it feels like it's sped up, where we kind of feel like it needs to be sped up because there's such a short time before the election. But I mean, this is not like uh, if she had, was starting a campaign fresh, a year ahead of time, you wouldn't have been trying to force her to have interviews and whatnot within a couple of weeks of her starting her campaign. I mean, just it's just this pressure of everything needs to fast forward because we have such a little bit of time that I feel like there's this unrealistic expectation for her to do just shit tons of interviews and everything else, where she's still just trying to work out plans. She's still trying to work out, her footing, and even just getting, what she has released out there, and for people to hear it, because she's really not getting, I mean, uh, you only have a certain amount of people that is like for the convention. Granted, it was had some pretty high views, but even the debate, you're going to get a few more, and then with every interview you get a few more. I mean, it's I feel like she's doing a reasonable amount of stuff, and I feel like the pace is going to pick up here a little bit for her, especially since her momentum is on the positive side anyways. But anyways, like I said, overall, I think it was okay. Outside of a little bit of a hiccup, if she can work out her startups, get those honed down and defined a little bit better. Maybe cut out some of the personal story stuff, or shorten it up at least. I think she'll be fine. And she could get, uh, more solid interviews going forward. But like I said, this being her first solo one, I don't think it was that bad. It certainly isn't as bad as some of the previous ones we've had, months ago, and when she was just VP. Anyways, uh, she, got the big endorsement from Taylor Swift afterwards. That was huge. I mean, it's come out since then. In the first 24 hours, she had over 400,000 people going through the link to register and all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm saying. I'll say it over and over again. What's a hidden momentum is voter registration right now. And what's not being reflected in polls is voter registration right now. So I'm just saying, if things stay at the momentum that they're going, there could be an upset that some people are not going to expect, and we're going to hear about it. Anyways, thank you very much. Like and subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think about the interview. Did she actually do decent? Did you think it was not well enough? Did she not give enough information? I mean, I do agree she probably needed to have given more, but I do feel like she did at least fine tune a little bit on her answers. Substantively, it was about the same, but at least she fine tuned that a little bit to make it a little bit more presentable, or a little bit more absorbable. Is that a word? I don't know. Anyways, again, if you want to check out the other channels, check them out, and Discord, whatnot. Anyways, thank you very much for joining me, and until next time, Clear Talk. Peace. I'm out.